You're listening to the Real Estate Runway podcast, powered by QUATTRO Capital, where we are all about alternative business and investment strategies to help you amplify life and maximize wealth. Here's your host, the recovering engineer turned multifamily investor, Chad Sutton.
All right, Real Estate Runway family. Today we have probably one of the most brilliant entrepreneurs I've talked to in a long time. All of my guests are brilliant, but this one is really doing something outside the box. Mr. Adam Jason is actually building a coffee farm empire in Colombia. And I do not mean Columbia, South Carolina. I mean Medellin, Colombia. What's really interesting about this business plan is what you don't know is the coffee industry in Colombia is really mom and popish. It's really, this family owns that land, this family owns this land. What Adam and his team are doing are coming in and industrializing and aggregating larger amounts of land. And further, they've created a syndication opportunity out of it where they have already raised over $30 million for the project. And they're even looking at revenue streams like, using the waste to generate a side revenue business with liquor distillation, things of that sort. So just an amazing guy, really an amazing business opportunity. Can't wait to share it with you. And folks, if you get any satisfaction or any enjoyment out of this episode or any one that we've done in the past, please head over to Apple Podcasts, leave us that 5-star review. It really is the best thing you can do to help the show, help us grow, help us get to new people, and spread the message. So without further ado, here's Adam Jason.
All right, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Real Estate Runway podcast. I'm your host, Chad Sutton, and we are powered by QUATTRO Capital, as always here. I'm joined today with my friend Adam Jason, partner of Legacy Group, an alternative asset manager down in Colombia, and I do not mean Columbia, South Carolina. Adam, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me, Chad. I appreciate the opportunity to connect with you and your audience.
Yes, and what the listeners don't know is this is literally take 45 of the show. We had so many bandwidth problems trying to get this recorded, but here we are going back to our trusty Zoom platform to do this. But hey, man, give me a little bit of an insight on who you are and what you're doing, and correct me on what Colombia we're in. We're not in Columbia, South Carolina. We're in Colombia. So
sure.
What are you into?
Sure. Talking to you today from Medellin, Colombia, down here in South America. I've been here for the last 5 years. Attorney by trade, came down here at kind of a crossroads of my career and looking for something a little bit more entrepreneurial from the big law firm background that I had in the past. Got connected to the right people, met my now business partner. Long story short, now we have an investment firm down here in Medellin, Colombia, that's really focused on attracting high net worth capital from the US and outside of Colombia into businesses here that we either build or fund with our own capital down here in Colombia. So our focus the last few years has really been around what we're doing in the coffee. We've taken from zero to what it is today, the Green Coffee Company, which is now the largest producer of coffee in all of Colombia. We've done that in the last 5 years. We found another amazing company here that I'm talking to you from today called Polygonus that's focused on VFX, movie creation, video game creation. It's really kind of leading the industry down here. So all trying to open exciting and new opportunities for primarily US based investors. We have about 275 to date who are looking for alternative investments in alternative industries and alternative markets.
Yeah, it's fantastic, Adam. And folks, this is why I have Adam on the show today. We, as QUATTRO Capital, are an alternative investment firm. We love, outside of the box ways to make money. And while we focus on multifamily real estate and other commercial real estate assets, Adam has chosen to take the syndication model where, we can all deploy capital as a passive investor, but go and actually deploy and acquire businesses in Colombia. So, Adam, tell me a little bit about kind of the strategy. How did you guys come to build Green Mountain Coffee Company? And, just how did, and why Colombia? Kind of help me understand the landscape here.
Sure. So it really started back in 2017. My now business partner was down here and had connection to an investor base that was really focused on actually commercial real estate, short-term rental properties, but we're looking for some diversification, but still wanted that collateralized asset for their portfolio, something that's more comfortable to them, but does touch on a different country, different economy, etc. What we really saw being down here in Colombia and kind of seeing the business develop over the years is it's an industry that is very historically underinvested, especially with foreign capital coming in. It's very fragmented. You have about 500,000 families in Colombia that live from the coffee industry, but benefits in terms of economies of scale, very, very challenging for farmers here to access direct international markets. But the opportunity within the market itself is huge. Coffee is the national product of Colombia. Colombia is the third largest producer of coffee globally. We focus on Arabica or Arabica coffee, however you choose to pronounce it, which is really like the better of the two types of coffee that exist globally. There's Arabica and there's Robusta. Robusta is like your Maxwell House, chock full of nuts kind of coffee, and the Arabica is really the nicer stuff that people are paying top dollar for. Colombia is the number 2 producer of that coffee strand globally. So we said, there's no consolidation, there's no investment, there's definitely no foreign investment in this industry. Let's focus on that consolidation. Let's focus on bringing together more and more sophisticated infrastructure that allows for better processing, better quality, better ability to meet the demands of international clients. And let's run with it. So we went from okay, let's build something small that's an alternative to a multifamily property or a piece of commercial real estate, and let's kind of take the roof off of it and try to get this company to an exit, try to get this company to an IPO here in the relatively short term, and really leverage our own backgrounds and experiences having done that for companies in developed markets.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So, and basically what you've done is a little bit of, you said consolidation. I think that was the word. So how do you find these current coffee farmers in their current state? Is it mainly family owned land? Are you aggregating? Are you buying them out and aggregating them together, or is it more like a greenfield site that is just larger in capacity, and resources to produce these produce the product?
Sure. Yeah, most of the sellers that we see are that large landholding family that you described. What you typically see is great grandpa gets into the coffee industry, he consolidates land, runs it as a business, it passes down a few generations, you get 3-4 generations down, and the person inheriting it really doesn't want to be in the coffee industry, the scale's big, but in most cases, a lot of the family wealth is tied up in that land. So they're either borrowing against it or getting themselves in trouble financially because they want to live in Miami or they want to go to Paris or whatever it might be. But for most folks, that's where their net worth is. So what we've seen is a lot of kind of turnover in those generational gaps and interest in selling. So we target those kind of sellers, people who are looking for liquidity around assets they're not really that interested in operating. And we've been fortunate enough to find a lot of land, be able to consolidate it. Right now, we're focused on one geographic nexus. Like I said, I'm in Medellin. Our farms are about 2 hours south of here. We have just over 6,600 acres to date, all within about a 20 to 30 minute kind of geographic spread, but really trying to own regions. And now part of the conversation having today, we just launched the Series C funding round for the business, and a big part of that capital will go to duplicate the operations that we have now a little bit farther south in the country. The reason being is, as you'd expect with agriculture, it can be very seasonal. So coffee here really arrives from a seasonal perspective at the end of the year, the start of Q1. But if you're finding various regions throughout the country to buy in, you can more easily smooth out that harvest cycle. So we're focused on some other areas that have their main harvest in the spring, because our buyers, somebody like Starbucks, Nestle, etc., those guys want coffee all year and you have to meet that demand to really be not only a good provider for them, but also somebody that, our goal is for our investors to either get a buyer for us or get to an IPO. If you're not basically somebody that a Starbucks or Nestle, whomever, could plug and play directly into their own model, meaning you have coffee all the time, it's going to be a lot harder of a sales proposition. So that's kind of where we're going right now.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So really it is positioning the business for an acquisition in the future or something of that sort. So
absolutely.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, and really that's what we're all doing, even if take it back to multifamily, we're always positioning for the next acquisition. We may buy it, add value to it, and then we're going to sell it. And so
of course,
what you're doing here. And so Adam, I guess the next question I have, if we kind of take it back to 10,000 feet view, I'm really getting an insight into the coffee industry. Maybe let's talk a little bit about why one would choose farmland as an alternative investment over, we all understand on this podcast, multifamily, we understand self-storage, we understand, square footage based office and medical and things of that sort. But why farmland? Let's talk about that fundamental for a second.
Sure. Just like commercial real estate, you have the benefit of the farmland is a hard asset, collateral for whatever the investment is that you might be making. And then, of course, having a productive asset on top of the asset itself, like coffee, something that's generating cash for the business, cash for the investors. Right now, a lot of people are thinking about inflation. What's a good hedge against inflation? A asset that's producing income for somebody, just like you'd have in the multifamily space, right? As the land becomes more productive, as we're selling coffee at higher price points, the underlying land becomes more valuable to a potential buyer. So it fits a lot of those needs. I think a lot of people now, we're talking about alternative investments, but a lot of people are seeing, I think, coming out of 2021, some of the market corrections that we've seen, a lot of a regression towards hard assets and trying to make sure that, comparing it to something like cryptocurrencies or whatever you might have, I think a lot of people are seeing the value in making sure that the investment is supported by a strong asset base.
Yeah, that makes a whole lot of sense. Yeah. And so let's take that one step further. And, here at Quattro, we really have a mantra of doing good while doing well, and so a lot of the investments we put money in are having positive impacts on the socioeconomic status of the community and the community itself. So I know you and I were talking about this, but tell me a little bit about the positive social and economic and environmental impacts that, this business is having in the Medellin and soon to be the entire Colombian area.
Sure. So, our investment thesis broadly at Legacy Group is kind of in the name. We want to be businesses that we want to be part of businesses that we're proud of, that actually impact the society around us. And frankly, we have to. You come to a market like Colombia, you look a little bit different, you speak a different language. People are always testing you to see what are your true intentions, what do you want to do. We also know that planning for the long term, markets right now, whether it's with respect to ESG criteria or transparency or sustainability, whatever it is, markets, consumers, everybody is placing more and more value on companies that are doing things in the right way. Regulators are requiring it. Market prices are driving people in that direction. So some of the things that we've done at the infrastructure that we've installed this year alone in the coffee processing process will save about 21 million liters of water versus what we would have used if we had the kind of traditional technology here in Colombia. This year, we'll plant about 2.5 million additional new coffee trees. We started a program at our greenhouses. The management team for the greenhouses is all single mothers, heads of family. So these are mothers that are single. They manage their households. Sometimes they bring their kids with them to the farms. We're looking at potentially putting a kindergarten right there so they can bring their kids. They can go to school while they're working for us. We've brought technology over from Europe that makes all of the planting that we do 100% biodegradable. So the traditional way of planting coffee trees in Colombia is you take a traditional black garbage bag, you tie it together, you stuff it with topsoil, you put the seed in, and you put it in the ground. Right. Obviously, that creates tons of waste. It's also inefficient from a business standpoint, but purely focused on sustainability, that leaves tons of waste in the ground. It never goes anywhere. So the technology we use is paper wrapping that's completely 100% biodegradable. And we're using that to benefit not only our own farms, but now we're selling the trees that we make with our extra capacity to other farmers. We also do a lot to benefit the farmers that surround us, in the sense that because of our access to capital, because of our scale, we're able to buy the coffee that they produce at market or above market prices, which saves them really all the waste and time that goes into processing their coffee themselves. They have to pick the coffee beans from the trees. They have to put it through their own technology. They have to maintain the infrastructure. Most of the technology is so old that it creates a lot of waste, pollution, etc. It's good for the community. We get people cash a lot faster than they would if they had to do the whole processing themselves and find a buyer. It's just a kind of a circular way of benefiting everybody in the chain. I could go on and on, but those are the things we're proud of, and things, frankly, we have to do reputationally and from a business perspective.
Yeah, I think you hit that on the head. I mean, that absolutely is something to be proud of. Because you are required to do that for your international reputation if you're taking international money, and so that's one thing. But man, I can imagine the locals there are just so appreciative of this, and even the new technology you brought to the area. So not only are you, improving your business and industry, you're improving that of others, which is elevating the entire industry in Colombia. So wow, what a cool way to invest your capital. I love it.
Thank you.
Well, so what I'd love to do real quick before we get into our final questions, we kind of skipped over this because I was so excited about the green coffee.
Sure.
Tell me a little bit about your background, Adam. Like you were an attorney before, but how did you go from being an attorney to owning a coffee farm, quite literally?
Sure. So my legal practice, I practiced at probably two of the largest law firms in the world. My client base was Fortune 500 companies, Wall Street banks. My specific practice area is focused on SEC, capital markets, corporate finance, taking companies public, raising private, public equity and debt. My path was I worked for about 8 years out of law school in that space, and was at the point in my career where you make the decision of, do I want to be a partner at the law firm? Do I want to go in-house and work for one of our clients? Or do I want to do something different? And really, for me, that means something entrepreneurial. I had a job offer in Houston when I was in Dallas, and I took the job offer and I had a month in between positions. So for the first time in my life, kind of did some traveling, especially outside the US, and found Medellin, Colombia. I was interested in some real estate opportunity investment and those kind of avenues. And the market really appealed to me. The opportunity appealed to me. I met my business partner down here. I went back to the US and started the new job down in Houston. And I just really had the itch to do something. I could look a few years ahead and see the partners that were above me, and just decided, one, I don't really want that right now, and two, I know that it'll be there for me if I want to come back to it later. So my business partner, Cole, was starting the green coffee company at that time back in 2017, and he needed somebody with some expertise in raising capital from US-based investors. Even though it's a Colombian-based business, when we're talking to US investors, everything has to flow through the rules and regulations of the US legal system, and also just the strategy and the mechanic of all of that. So I started helping from the US 18. I came back down here to Colombia full time and have really kind of loved it ever since.
Wow, that's an incredible story, Adam. And so,
wow,
just going from biggest law firm in the country or two to, revolutionizing an industry in an entire country. I mean, it's just an amazing thing you guys are doing. I love it.
I appreciate that. I appreciate
Well,
that.
I would love to continue talking about this all day, but before we get into, we're going to do the questions in a little bit different
Yep.
order today because we're talking about the product you sell. We can actually go purchase this product directly somewhere on Amazon. How do we find the product and try it out and just kind of know this is real?
Yeah, if you search green coffee company Gallo de Oro in Amazon, you can find the product. And then, of course, like I mentioned, we're open for investment. We just started our Series C. A couple high-level details on that. It's a U.S.-based investment, so everything's structured out of a Delaware holding company. We're asking for 100,000 minimum investments. We're raising 25 million of equity, 75 of debt. Returns look amazing. You know, we're beyond just selling coffee. We're moving a lot into the roasted side of coffee, so selling closer to the consumer. And then kind of on the sustainability point, we are taking all of the byproduct that gets generated when you're processing coffee. So skin, cherry, pulp, water, nutrients. And we've bought all the distillation equipment to turn that into vodka, spirits, and some other byproducts that we can sell on a B2C basis. So as we add on all these different revenue streams, the return profile really gets pretty high. So we're expecting double-digit multiples on capital through a 2026 exit. That's the goal, and I think the numbers and business models support that. So, you know, simple is if you 100,000 investment, we hope ahead for doing that. So it's accredited U.S. investors who are interested, you know, can find us as well, and that's another way to get involved. And of course, try the coffee. You want to make sure you like the product before you invest in it.
Yeah, that's just incredible, man. I mean, and layering in all the different revenue streams as well. You guys are just y'all are some incredible entrepreneurs, and I can't wait to see where this thing goes.
Thank you, Chad. Thank you. Me
All
too.
right, Adam. Got to ask a couple of questions of you here before we get off the call. So tell me,
Okay.
and we've heard a lot of really cool things about you, but what is your superpower in this business, would you say?
And I've taught myself the last couple of years that you really have to be open to learning, whether it's, you know, because for me, going from lawyer to, I guess, kind of entrepreneur to another country, there's just so many things that you have to, one, figure out from experience, figure out from mentors, figure out by reading, figure out from being involved in the culture. I think I learn something new every day. So superpower, I guess, would be keeping an open mind and be willing to explore ideas and put them into practice and see how things go.
I love that. And now we're going to go to the flip side of the coin. What is
Okay.
your biggest mistake or failure, and what did you learn from it?
When I first got here, we were investing in some real estate projects. We were just kind of looking at a lot of different avenues for opening up new investment products for our investor base. And what I saw with that was just the necessity to have a really clear focus and kind of dedicate our attention the strongest we can to a couple of core things. So we sold the real estate business, we moved that capital in coffee. Just where I see the last 2 years or so of that is the management team and everybody all being 100% focused on growing that business versus trying to juggle a lot of balls.
Yeah, that makes sense. Laser focus and positioning is key in growing a business.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Well, last question, and then we'll cut you loose, Adam. What is Quattro Philanthropy is a big part of what we do. It's one of our 4 pillars, after all. And not only have you talked about how your business is currently impacting in a positive way the local environment, you know, do you have any philanthropic ventures that you are passionate about? And, you know, a lot of times our listeners will contribute on your behalf. So what do you think?
I think the best way to philanthropy is, frankly, through capitalism. I think that, you know, without the businesses that we have here right now, to date, between the 2 businesses, we have about 600 employees. Those people might not have jobs or might not, I think, be in the same position that they are today if we weren't bringing capital into the country, dedicating our efforts towards that. You know, a lot of the benefits that we take for granted in the US, whether it's healthcare, pension, formal banking, all these kinds of things, you know, we're trying to implement across our businesses here. These emerging markets really need that kind of support, but it creates not only call it a philanthropical opportunity, but also a business opportunity as more and more people come into kind of the formal system, more people get comfortable with technology. So my encouragement would be for people who are looking to broaden their horizons from an investment standpoint, business standpoint, to look at other markets and understand kind of the human capital that's available and the opportunity that's there. And society's rising will benefit a lot of people through job creation, not necessarily through direct donation. I think that's what I've seen to be the most effective.
I couldn't have said that better myself. That is just incredible. And that's you're right. I mean, you're creating opportunity and wow, amazing. Well, everyone, this has been another episode of the Real Estate Runway podcast. Our friend Adam Jason with Legacy Group. Adam, what is the best way to get in touch with you, whether it be to try your coffee, invest with you, or just come say hey in Colombia?
Yeah, if you guys want to find us, you can email us. It's investor.relations@legacy-group.co. You can also find us on the website if you want to read the information about the coffee company, legacy-group.co.
All right, fantastic. And as always, folks, just scroll right on down in whatever modality you're listening to this episode, and all that information will be right there clickable for you. And I hope to have Adam back on the show when he has created the new legal version of an empire in Colombia with coffee companies. So, all right. Well, everyone, this has been another episode of the Real Estate Runway podcast. Until next time, over and out.
We hope this episode was insightful and brought value to your day. If so, please be awesome and leave us a 5-star review. Find out how Team Quattro can help you at thequattroway.com. Until next time, this is the Real Estate Runway podcast.